Hello everyone, welcome back to the Craft of the Draft channel. And a pretty big APS game happened on the weekend between Brighton and Haileybury, and this was almost the decider in the APS system. And Jonty, you were at this. This was a massive game. It was covered on Baseline by you on their live blog and had a lot of eyes on it, to be honest, but I'll let you touch on it, and I'm going to ask you a few questions about this because this had a lot of Vic Metro prospects in it. It was definitely one that was probably would have been touted by recruiters, in terms of scouting out and seeing who performed on quite a big stage from all accounts. But tell me about the game, tell me about the atmosphere. What was it like on the day?
Absolutely unbelievable. Yeah, both teams really brought their A game in terms of their cheer squad. Massive support behind the goals, and it's always good to get out to an APS game and you really see with those games the emotion that the players play with, how much it meant to Brighton to win that game. They got up by a point in the end, and the excitement that they play with as well, and how much it means to them. It's such a key part of their 18s year, and we know that obviously Coates League footy and National Championships footy means a lot more, and it's a much higher standard, but there is a great interest from players and from schoolboys to really perform well and have their teams go well. So a great day for Brighton Grammar and a really hard-fought contest. Unfortunately, it was like a bar of soap, the ball in the first half in particular, because of the conditions. It was very, very wet, but nonetheless, still an outstanding game to watch. And yeah, Brighton Grammar's a really small ground. It's really confined, which made the atmosphere all the better.
I'll start from the top with Sam Lindo playing a skipper's game from BGS. I guess what made it so instrumental in that final result?
Absolutely outstanding. Yeah, he was huge throughout the day. Really hard, really courageous, and put his head over the footy. Played exactly what you need to play in a wet weather game. And yeah, he had two moments in the last quarter which really defined the way he played. A massive contested mark in defence when scores were all tied up. You kind of thought if Haileybury were able to score there, it might be the game done and dusted. He was able to take the contested mark and then straight away spot up an option on the opposite wing, really courageous switch kick that hit its target perfectly. His teammate didn't need to break stride, and it actually led to an Archie Ludowick contested mark and winning behind in the end. And then he also had a goal line clearance in the last 10 or 15 seconds of the game when it looked like Haileybury might tie it up with a behind. He was able to get it out of the vicinity, and then, yeah, obviously Brighton able to hold on.
I guess the Levi Ashcroft would have been one of the main talking points for Brighton, but tell me about Charlie Rowe's performance on him to keep him accountable.
Yeah, so Charlie Rowe, a player from the Dandenong Stingrays, was one who spent a fair bit of time on Levi Ashcroft. Levi Ashcroft had real impact in that last quarter, and he did actually come into the game, but for the first three quarters, he was largely kept out of it because, yeah, Charlie Rowe and himself lined up on each other at stoppages. Charlie Rowe was able to keep him really accountable and also win plenty of contested footy himself. So it was a really good game from Charlie Rowe. Conditions tailor-made for the way he goes about it with his sort of hardness and physicality, and he certainly made the most of them.
Well, you caused a bit of controversy on our socials by putting Mitch Kirkwood-Scott down the bottom of your 5-4-3-2-1s, which are on our Instagram, which is on our Instagram page now, but why was that controversial, I guess, in the end, that call?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, I think, thought he was, in the top 2 or 3 best players on the day. So he played on Charlie Richardson. Charlie Richardson kicked the only goal of the first half, a massive goal from the boundary line, a really straight arrow kick, but it was from an out on the full kick, so it wasn't like he took a big mark or anything like that. And Mitch Kirkwood-Scott was undersized and able to really nullify him aerially. He's obviously a Vic Metro player. And not only that, but Mitch Kirkwood-Scott's desperation was outstanding. And yeah, he was really, really good in terms of his ability to turn defense into attack. And I think if I had my time again, I would have put him a little bit higher. I probably undersold his impact. The funny thing is about these 5-4-3-2-1s, I always back myself with my rankings. This time, I actually asked 4 or 5 people at the game, who do you think were your 3 or 4 best on from each team? Every single person had Mitch Kirkwood-Scott in their top 2. I didn't listen to him. I backed myself, and then I got the feedback I probably deserved because, yeah, he was outstanding and also kicked an important third quarter goal.
Talk to me about Zach Travers and I guess his general performance on the day, or what made him, a big part of that, the game in general.
Yeah, so he was one who, through the second and third quarter, he really, really lifted. There was some indifferent conditions, particularly through the middle of the game, and the contest was so hot as well. I thought his third quarter, he took some really important marks, was able to lock the ball inside 50 for Brighton. He's a Sandy Dragons listed player, and he was really, really crucial and had some important contested ball wins as well. So, yeah, a really strong game from him. He was probably second best for Brighton.
Continuing on continuing on the Sandy Dragons theme, and we wish we could have seen this at National Champs if they were on opposing teams, but now we get to see this at APS level with Lenny Hoffman and Harry Armstrong. Yeah. How was that matchup? Would have been pretty exciting given the form lines both are in at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the first thing to preface, it was obviously wet, so it wasn't a day for the key forwards to really take a hold of the game. But Harry Armstrong is their barometer, is Haileybury's barometer. They were promoting him on socials all week. Get down to Brighton Grammar and watch Harry Armstrong kick 10. He was never going to do that, the conditions that it was. But having said that, there was still some massive one-on-one wins that Lenny Hoffman was able to come out on top of his Sandy Dragons teammate with. Harry Armstrong just finished with the one goal and didn't really have a great deal of impact. Part of that was down to the rain, but I thought Lenny Hoffman played his role really well. Some big spoils and never let him get any separation.
A few players who didn't make your 5-4-3-2-1 in the end, but still performed well. Tyrone Moo, Dylan Lindo, and Sam Fanning, Harry Oliver. I guess touch on those boys. What still kept them in that top 10 discussion?
I think Dylan Linden was one who was really explosive throughout the day. So was George Dimer. He did make my 5-4-3-2-1. Sam Fanning played an important role in the ruck. He was really athletic against Tyrone Moo, so that was an interesting one to watch. I thought Tyrone Moo's first half was absolutely huge, and at halftime I probably had him as just about best on ground with his ability to have presence and win hit-outs in the wet, but then probably faded a little bit, played some time as a key forward and didn't find a heap of the footy after that. So that's probably why he didn't make my 5-4-3-2-1. But Sam Fanning, really athletic, had a good game in the ruck, covered the ground really well and took some big contested grabs. And then, Harry Oliver with his kicking had a couple of important moments to lock the ball inside 50 for the Brighton Grammar School as well.
I'll ask you about two big moments, and that's Keegan Mountford's third quarter forward and then also afterwards, Archie Ludwig's match-winning mark. Tell me about both of those moments.
Yeah, so Keegan Mountford, wow. So, Haileybury had to come with a real rush in that third quarter. They hadn't scored a goal in the first half. They were still obviously in the game. So the score at halftime was 8-4 to Brighton. So, really low scoring. But then Keegan Mountford absolutely took it up a notch in the third quarter when the intensity lifted. He kicked a goal from outside 50. 3 minutes later, he kicked a goal on the boundary line from 45, a running goal, mind you, as well. And then he set up Harry Armstrong out the back. So 3 massive goals for Haileybury in a low-scoring game, all within 10 minutes of each other, and he really lifted it and, was able to find space. He's been a critical goal scorer throughout the season and generated plenty of opportunities for Haileybury throughout the season and was able to deliver on the day. So a really impressive performance from Keegan Mountford. And then Archie Ludwig, touched on that contested mark. He came from 4 or 5 deep to take that contested mark and then had to kick it from outside 50. Just needed to register a score, it felt like, and they were going to win with how deep it was in stoppage time. And he was able to do that. But he also took a big contested mark earlier in the last quarter and kicked a goal when they were 15 points down, and that really kept them in the game and was able to, change the momentum as well and get it back going Brighton's way. So his last quarter was huge. So to take those 2 contested marks on a really wet day spoke to how clean he can be overhead. And he was probably the only player that threatened all day in terms of contested marking.
And I'll ask you to finish up about a few key matchups. Brayshaw v Oliver, Harrop v Trainer, Hoffman Armstrong, Richo, Kirkwood Scott. Tell me a bit about those key matchups. I guess, which ones were the most exciting and the most impactful, in that final result?
Yeah, well, I think, you look at, I touched on, obviously, Hoffman versus Armstrong. That was one that you sort of expected the way to go was the way it went with the rain. Same with Richardson and Kirkwood Scott. It was always going to be hard for Richardson to take a hold in the rain with his, contested marking and lead-up marking being his one wood. But the one that was really impressive was Jack Harrop, so someone who's not Talent League listed, to do a job on Luke Trainer in the first 3 quarters. I thought he was one of their best players really in the end, just with his ability to lock Luke Trainer down. We know how well Trainer's able to really patrol the half-back line and then use his kicking as a real weapon, and he wasn't able to do that to full effect on Saturday, and that came down to Jack Harrop just keeping him really accountable and keeping the ball out of his hands. And then Luke Trainer was moved forward in the last quarter to try and get him into the game and allow him to have a bit more impact for Brighton. He did have a good last quarter, but Jack Harrop probably won the matchup in the fact that it caused a change in position for Luke Trainer, so that was really good to see. And Freddie Brayshaw had some nice moments on Harrison Oliver as well as a defensive forward.
And that about wraps it up. Make sure to check out Baseline's blog to get a full recap and full, it's a replay almost of that game. Check out our socials for more content and Talent League content as well as the AFL draft nears closer. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in another video.